Greetings, weary travelers, and welcome to this week's edition of Special Effects and Post Production. A couple of things. First off, I was out of the States last week and the week before, and it turns out I wasn't receiving some text messages. That should be all cleared up now. In general, WhatsApp will be the most reliable, quickest way to get in touch with me. Otherwise, email and text should be fine now at this point. But, email and WhatsApp is more reliable to get in touch with me. The other thing that happened last week is infrastructure or Canvas went down. It's actually a great lesson for all of us, right? One, it's always good to build redundancy in the things we do, right? So, like for myself with this stuff, you'll notice. Well, this week, for example, here's an example, right? This week, we're doing an After Effects lesson, and I keep my class materials on here, but I have them actually buried under, under modules. And we're going to go to modules this week. And I'm going to go ahead and download week 2 right there. I'm going to go ahead and download that. For years, people used to make fun of me for having this backend on Google, or I would have other storage things, but it's important to have redundancies. The other thing I would say is working with media, sometimes, the software will go away or something like that. I remember when I first started doing media stuff, there was this program, it was called Flash, and everybody invested a ton of time into it. And people used to make a lot of money, like working in Flash. But it kind of went away after a while. Other thing is like you look at editing systems. When people first started doing digital editing, they started on Avid. And then Walter Murch made a shift, who was a big time editor at the time using digital. He went from Avid and then worked over to Final Cut Pro. And then everybody decided to do that as well. And then Final Cut Pro changed and everybody kind of abandoned it and they went to Premiere and back to Avid. So the point I'm trying to make is be flexible, folks. All right, this week we are going to use After Effects. So you're going to go ahead and download this and open it up. We'll say week 2. I'm going to open that up. And I have some files from there from a while ago. It's funny. I keep kind of the same project, but what's funny is like every year the way that the project is done changes gradually, and this year and the past year it's because of AI, the influence of AI. I still feel it's an important project in the sense that it's going to teach you the basics of how to navigate After Effects, and it's going to do it in a way. I know some of you have probably opened After Effects and gone, oh no, right? And immediately closed it because it looks scary. Well, this is hopefully going to make it less scary. So you can see under week 2, I have assets. We have a song here that we're going to put some text over. Here's the actual text of the song. Exports, there's nothing in there. That's where we're going to throw things. We got images. We have raw images right here, and we're going to treat each one of these. There's one JPEG and the rest are EPS. And with those EPS files, we're going to use Illustrator. And then with the JPEG, we're going to use Photoshop. Once we finish the images, we're going to put them in there under finished images. We also have some video files here that we're going to use. Lastly, let's go ahead and make a project file. I'm going to call this AE project file. And again, it's super, super important if you think you will get a job in media production or, even in post-production or pre-production. It's super, super important to understand where you put things. So just do it. Figure it out. Figure out its basic computer stuff. Okay. Let's get started then. Okay. First thing we want to do is we're going to treat some of these images. So the first one that we're going to treat is let's start with with Photoshop. So I'm going to right click on that, open up Photoshop. It might take a little bit longer. I just updated my computer and also my Photoshop subsequently. It usually takes a little longer for it to load the presets. Oh, well, that was lickety split. So we have this tarantula. I want to remove the background. We're going to use some of the AI stuff for that. So first things first, I'm going to hit Command A and Command C. I'm sorry. Use this Command A. See, I use the lasso. Command C. Then I'm going to go File, New. And we're going to use HD presets. We're going to go to Film and Video. And we're just going to use the HD. Alternatively, if we're working in 4K, which some of you might use Ultra HD right there. That would be our other preset. If you're doing widescreen, that would be DCI 2K, right? Or DCI scope. And that's really like a 2:1 ratio. And then, you could use a 4K DCI. Again, that's kind of cinematic sorts of filming. So we're going to go ahead and create. Again, you can see your title safe and your action safe areas there. We're going to grab this tarantula. I'm going to hit Command C, Command V. There's the tarantula. I'm going to go ahead and make that a little bit bigger and center it. I'm going to make sure that I have my layers over here. Can't see my layers. There they are. I'm going to get rid of that background, like so. There we go. Oh, it's asking me to do a new layer. I don't want to do that. I want to actually delete that. There we go. And then with this one, I'm simply using my AI. Ba-boom, remove background. I can't tell you how long that used to take doing stuff like that. Just removing the background, and look at how slick that is. That's pretty amazing. And to boot, it gives you a mask. Wow. Isn't technology amazing, folks? So I'm going to go File, Save As. If that were something that we were doing even 5 years ago, it would have taken quite some time to get a good mask out of that. But if we zoom in, you can see it's done a really good job with that. Well, we got to ask ourselves, is it worth it, like using all that water and energy for that? Probably not. Probably not a good idea, but it's still kind of amazing sometimes. So I'm going to go to File, and we're just going to save this as a PSD file. We'll call it tarantula, or I'll call it spider, because guess what? I don't know how to spell tarantula. Here we go. Where are we putting this? See, I got to take my own advice. I don't even know where things are. Well, it's under week 2. Assets, images. Well, is it a raw image? No, it's finished. I'm going to go ahead and save that. So I think that will be it with Photoshop. One thing I will say, whenever you're working in media, in post-production, it's best to prep your images beforehand doing this at 72 DPI and using one of these templates. What happens is if you take images, say for example, I took an image directly from my phone, a lot of those will be at like 150 DPI. And if you're using like a DSLR camera or a mirrorless camera, it will come in at 300 DPI. And what happens is the editing systems sometimes have a difficult time reading that, and you might mess up your renders with that. So just keep it in mind. It's always kind of good practice to get your images and your movies kind of in the same format, right? The same dimensions. It will just make things a lot easier in post-production. So I'm going to go ahead and quit out of that. Let's go ahead and prep a couple other things. So I'm going to go ahead and do this sun. I'm going to open that with Illustrator. Let's see if Illustrator takes a little longer to open. It's taking a little bit. Okay, I apologize. Oh, what's this? It's asking something. It wants to do. I don't know when Max started asking all these questions. It feels offensive in some way. But, I don't know. Security stuff, I guess? Who knows? It's annoying. Okay. Folders. Even the desktop folder. I mean, come on. I think the desktop folder is, I think it's okay to access. Here we go. So in this one, we have a picture of the sun. And again, we're going to do kind of the same thing. I'm going to hit Command A, Command C, go to File, New. We're going to look at the templates. I'm going to go to Film and Video. And we're just going to do HD. I'll hit Command V. And I can make this larger or smaller. You'll notice, though, on Illustrator, what happens is if you just grab a handle and start moving it, it skews the image. Well, it's funny because Illustrator and Photoshop were built on different platforms and they had different software and engineers. They kind of did shortcuts a little differently. So on this one, to maintain the aspect ratio, you actually hold the Shift key down, which on Photoshop, you would not do that, right? It would actually be something else. So here we go. I'm just going to go ahead and center this now. Right about there. Go File, Save As. I'll call this Sun. Again, I need to go to my desktop, Week 2, Assets. I'll go to Images, Finished Images. That's the sun. Hit OK. There we go. Got quite a bit going on there. And then last one, we're going to go ahead and open up this last one here. Clouds. I'm going to hit Command A, Command C, go File, New, Film and Video, and I'm going to go ahead and HD TV and hit Command V. Ooh, that's very big. Zooming out, Command plus or Command negative. I'm doing Command negative. I'm holding my Shift key down to maintain that aspect ratio. Go ahead, put that right there in the center. Command plus to zoom in, using my space bar to move things around. I want to get rid of that background. This is a little bit different, right? I'm just going to double click and hit delete. And there it goes. It's gone. Now I'm going to go back. There we go. There's my cloud. I'll go to File, Save As. Call this one Cloud. I know how to spell cloud. And look at that. It knows where I want to go. Under Finished Images, I'm going to click Save. Right. I'm going to go ahead and end that right there. Great. Now we're going to go ahead and open up After Effects. Let's see, is that going to show up on my dock? Yep, right down there. There's After Effects. And you can drag that to your dock if you want to, or not. You can go right into your application folder. All right. Waiting. I just installed this as well, so I bet you it might have some questions for me to answer. All right. Yeah, it just asks if I wanted to get rid of the old copy. I do. And it's taking its time to load presets. That's pretty normal for that to happen, especially when you upgrade it. Yeah, that's taking its sweet time. I wish I had some great gems of knowledge to drop right now, but I got nothing. I have nothing. Okay. So for some reason, let's see. Here we go. So this is After Effects, right? Over here on the left, you have your project window. That's where you're going to keep all your folders and files. Here's your composition window, and down below will be where the timeline is. First things first, we're going to go ahead and make a new composition. We're going to make that 1920 by 1080, and we're going to do that at 23.976 frames a second. We could also do it at 2997. So I'm basing this off our North America. And the reason that we have 29.97 or 23.976 is because that's divisible into our electrical grid. So this prevents us from getting flickering and stuff. So those of you who are in China or in Europe, you'll be using 25 frames a second. And you would do that with your camera as well. You would shoot 25 frames a second with a shutter speed of 1/50 if you were in China or if you were in Europe. But here in the States, we shoot at 23.976 and sometimes 1/48 or 1/60, depending on the lights and that sort of thing. People always ask, do you want to shoot in 29.97 or 23.976? And I generally like to shoot in 23.976. And the reason that I like shooting at this one is it gives you a more pleasing motion blur, just a little bit. And quite honestly, it's you really have to be a pixel peeper to really see that. But what's even more important, in my opinion, would be that you get an extra stop of light, meaning the sensitivity of the camera, you'll get a little more latitude in the shadows. So it's going to be a cleaner image, and you'll just have more to work with in the shadows. So you can see you can put a composition name up there. And what's kind of different about this is you set the duration beforehand. So the first two are going to be frames. Second two will be seconds. The next set will be minutes, and then hours right there. So we just want to do 30 seconds. So I'm going to type in 30.00. 30.00, and I'm going to hit OK. And now you'll notice on the timeline down here, what's happened, let's see, is that we have 30 seconds, right? If I want to, look at this. This is kind of neat. I can zoom in to an exact frame right there. So you can zoom in and out, which is kind of great. The other thing is, like, sometimes you only want to render one area or a very small area. Then you would take your work area, that's this little guy right here, and make it smaller or bigger. Sometimes people will run into this issues where they're like, oh, professor, I only have one frame that's exporting. Well, it's probably because their work area was only doing like one frame, and it needs to be the whole composition. So think of this timeline similarly to a layers kind of palette in Photoshop, right? And we'll get into that in a bit more. And again, here you can see the composition. Now, composition, in terms of, if you come from the editing world, just think of that as a timeline, right? And then over here, you can see the composition, right? But let's bring in some assets and play around a little bit more. So I'm going to go to my desktop, week 2, assets. So I'm going to bring in my audio. I can bring in a folder if I want to. And then I'm going to bring in some images. Assets, go to images, and I'll just show you how you can make some folders in here. I'll take these finished images. I'm going to open those up. Now, I don't want things to get all messy in there, so I'll go ahead and create a folder. Drag that stuff in there. The spider and the sun. And then I'll call that images. Now, what's interesting, right? If I open up one of these images, like cloud, it pops up. I still have the timeline here, right? If I go back to the timeline, that will pop up. But the cloud is still up there. It's just basically tabbed viewing, right? Rather than having two separate windows, one source monitor, one being your output monitor, you're going to have the ability to view it this way. So that's one thing. So let's bring in some videos. Import file. I'm just going to go ahead and bring in the whole thing. Now with videos, it's fine to just kind of bring in a whole folder. When you're working with Illustrator or Photoshop, you might want to import that a little bit differently. We're not getting into the details of it right now, but at some point we'll go over why you would do that. So I'm going to go ahead and import that video. All right, so what we want to do is we're going to take this song. Now, I just dragged it down there. And we have some video. It's interesting, so I can take this video right here, I can drag it. You can see there's a beginning and an end there. And then I have some clouds right there. Now look at this, right? My Boston time lapse is on the top one, and then I have giant clouds. Now, again, it's just like layers, right? I'm going to put that to the top now. Ta-da, see what happens? So it acts like a layers palette. So with this one, what we're going to do is just a little bit of audio, and I'm going to show you basically how to use some of the functions to make things kind of move around, and the basic idea of keyframes, which is the heart of this program, right? So we're going to go ahead and start with that. So I can hear my audio there, and I can actually see it. And I know right here at this point, I can see the waveform, right? When it's larger, that's a louder waveform. That's where the person starts singing. Baby. So right there, they start singing. If I want to, what's kind of neat, I can go ahead and make a marker right here. So I can hit Command M. I'm sorry, Command 8, sorry. Why is that? Or is it Option 8? They've gone ahead and changed that. So, oh, is that Shift 8? No, that's Control 8. Ah, that's what I had wrong. Control 8. Ta-da! There's my marker. See, when in doubt, the kind of great thing about this, right? I forget things all the time. I'm sure you do too. And if you're working on multiple softwares, it gets confusing, some of these shortcuts. So right there, you know, I just went to layer, markers. I'm like, oh, what was that? And look at that right there. It has a shortcut. Since we're on the topic of that, let's go over to the top here. You can see there are all kinds of tools up there. And additionally, those will have some shortcuts as well. Now, the neat thing with this, the hand tool and the zoom tool, it's similar to Photoshop. I can hit Command plus, Command negative, and I can use the space bar, and that's going to be kind of those three things right there. So I would get used to kind of doing things that way rather than using those ones up there. Up here you have rotation, pan behind, rectangle, cube tool. That's a new one right there. That's 3D stuff. We'll get into 3D stuff. I'm pretty excited about that. That's one of the new features of After Effects. We really get to dive into some 3D stuff, and we'll be doing that toward the end, not in this one. We're just going to do 2D stuff. There's the pen tool. Again, you'd think P for pen. No, it's G. It's G. Why not? And again, there's little drop-down menus right there. So same with text as well. There's an object matte tool or masking. That's kind of new. And then you have the brush tool. So the object mask tool, that used to be, they used to use like the roto brush tool, but I think this is kind of changed because it's more AI, and we'll get into that a little bit more as well. And then the puppet pin tool. And we'll also talk about that a little bit later. But today, let's just keep to the basics. I don't want people who are just starting out, because this is an intro class, right? I don't want people to get overwhelmed. It is an intro class. But think of it this way too. This is a class that is just giving you the basics of special effects. Like you wouldn't, for example, go into a Russian class or go into a foreign language class and expect at the end of the 3 months that you're going to be fluent in Russian, right? You're not going to be fluent in special effects. You're going to have an idea of it. So here we go. So in this one, I'm just going to make a note. Maybe that's when the guy says maybe, right? Maybe the sun. And then right there, the sun. I'm hitting Control 8. And I'm basically putting points where he's singing. And again, Control 8. Now, if I wanted to, I could put those notes. See, I made it so nothing is highlighted there. But if I highlighted a layer there, for example, and hit Option 8 or Control 8, it would put a marker right there. But we're not gonna worry about that right now. All right. So what we'll do is we're going to use the text tool, and I'm just going to comp this out. Maybe, and I'm trying to do a little bit of variation of my font, size, shape, and color. It's something to think about, right? You always kind of want to have variations of that, especially in this class. You don't want to just type something and have the text be an afterthought. A good way to build your compositions is to look at movie posters and magazines and anything that exists out there already, and kind of get an idea of the direction you want to go in with the text, right? Don't make it an afterthought. Text is so important, and it's really one of the things that will distinguish, something that looks professional or something that looks like is going to be an A with something that is just kind of mediocre, right? So spend some time with that. So I'm gonna pick a font. Pick Impact. I'm gonna make that a little bit bigger, like so. And then I can go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and pick color there, but I'm gonna pull from the actual, there we go. I'm gonna pull from the image, right, to keep in the same color palette. There's maybe, maybe I want to change this around a little bit. Yeah, go ahead and do that. There we go. And then we could do the sun. Ooh, that could be kind of interesting, right? What if I spread that maybe a little bit bigger? Yeah, okay. There we go. I'll keep the sun color, right? The sun. But we'll change maybe to look maybe a little darker there, but still in the palette. Okay. And then we'll shine today. So you can see I have 3 different things going on there. And I'll make that a little smaller. Yeah, like so. And again, I think just a little bit smaller. Yep, and we're getting there. I'm going to pull from the sky color here. Okay, like so. Yeah, why not? Now, let's do some other stuff here. With the sun, I'm going to go ahead to effect. I'll go to perspective and do a drop shadow. There, that will make things pop a little bit, especially since we have a dynamic range there, dark and then light. And then I think I can also do that down here. Maybe we'll shine today. Maybe we'll do something a little different. What do we want to do? Layer. I'll do effect. Perspective. What do we want to do? You know what? I'm just going to keep it the same there. But I'll keep the maybe kind of flat there. Okay, so we have something there, right? But we want these things to arrive at different times. So with a maybe, if I want to, if I hit Option close bracket, that works like a razor blade. So Option open bracket and close bracket will act like that. So you can see, boop. Oh, that wasn't maybe. That was will shine today. I'm gonna bring maybe right there. The sun will shine today. So again, Option close bracket. Okay, good. Now what I want to do, maybe I'm going to extend that a little bit, and then I think what I'll have it do is drop down. So I'm going to kind of work backwards here. So I can use position, rotation, or scale it. Now I can do that under here, and I can go to transform, and you can see all of these right here. Well, what's kind of cool is if I use shortcuts, like Option P for position, Option S for scale, Option R for rotation, and then you think Option O for opacity. No, Option T, but I try to think of that as like translucent. Anchor point, I honestly don't know what the shortcut is for that, but it's easy enough, I think, to just go ahead and change that up here with the pan behind tool. So I could actually just kind of change that there if I wanted to. So I wouldn't worry too much about that one. But the big ones that you're going to use a lot will be position. Now, it will look like PowerPoint if you don't if you don't utilize some of the cool things that After Effects has. One of them being the blur tool, right? So not the blur tool, but the motion blur tool. And the only way it works is if you get things to move in between 9 to 12 frames. Otherwise, it's not going to show up. So we're going to go ahead and kind of work backwards. I'm going to hit Option P for position. You can see that pops up. And then I'm going to scrub back about 9 frames. And I'm going to move that up. Okay, like so. So it's going to drop down. Now that was kind of slow in between things, right? So I want to make sure that I have that thing, right, in a way that it isn't super slow. So what I'm going to do is add the motion blur. And you can see it's doing it a little bit there, but if I push those a little closer, you'll see the motion blur pop up a little bit more. Yeah, and there we go, like so. There. All right. And then we want the sun to come in. Let's try something different with that, right? I'm gonna, again, just do it a little bit before, make the cut a little bit before, so it gives me some room to do some effects. I'm not gonna do a movement there. Let's say I wanna do a scale, but I want it to scale kind of from the middle. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and change the anchor point because I want it to kind of scale right from there. I'll move over about 9 frames. And I'm going to hit Option S for scale. And then go back. And I'll just type in 0 right there. See? That kind of pops up. And then if I throw in the motion blur, look at that. That's kind of neat. And then down at the bottom, this is a fun thing that we can do. I'm going to go ahead and do an option right here. Option, close bracket. I'm highlighting this. And then let's say I want to make a little bit of a path. Actually, let's say we want to kind of do that, like so. What's cool about this is now I can go to text, and I can go to path options, and I can go to mask 1, ta-da, and I can kind of move things around. Right, it looks kind of silly right there, right? Let's go ahead and move that up. And I can move that around a little bit. Bring that off. Looks silly right there, right? Certainly does. I'm gonna make that, move that a little bit. But I'm gonna go ahead and set that up as my last margin. And then I'm gonna move it over. And then I'm gonna make that kind of go off. Still looks kind of silly, right? But the other thing that we could do is we can go ahead and change some of the scale there. So right here, I want it to scale to 100%, but maybe I want it to be smaller down here. So I'll have it at 0. And then it kind of moves in like so. So you can do all sorts of cool things here. And I'll go ahead and add motion blur to it. Like so. So that's kind of the basics of what you need to know about keyframes and stuff like that. So you have 2 things to do this week. One is you're gonna finish this song, right? And then put that under project files or your project storage. The second is you're gonna pick your own song. You're gonna pick 30 seconds to 1 minute of a song with lyrics, and you're just gonna add the lyrics to it using these techniques. Now when you're done, you're gonna go to composition, and you're going to go to add to render queue. And we're just going to do this in After Effects right now. I'll show you how to do it in Media Encoder a little later. We're going to make sure that's H.264. I'm going to hit OK. I'm clicking on this not yet specified yet. I'll call this Tim Willett in class project 1. And then I'm going to go under exports, save, and then render it. When that's finished, I'm going to go ahead and you'll hear that little ring. I'm going to go ahead and go to homework, upload and storage. And this is where, you're going to put your project folders and projects in one place. But when you do your own homework, where you source your own images and you source your own song, you're going to put it under there, right? And then you're just going to simply drag it under Music Sync, right? I'm sorry, project uploads, and then you're going to put it under Music Sync. So you'll have one file there. Okay, that's it for this week. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. We can do screen sharing if you run into technical difficulties. I'm available 7 days a week, quite literally, and happy to take calls, and we can do a Zoom screen share, which the cool thing about it is I can actually take over your computer if we use Zoom and go through some of the mouse clicking and that sort of thing. Sometimes it makes it pretty easy if I can show you that way. Okay, well, have a good week, and we'll talk again next week. Cheers.